Hello, everyone, and welcome to another LoLa Podcast. Today, we have Jimmy Hyland here with us, and he's the founder of a Glasgow-based video production company that he launched in 2020 after 7 years of freelance camera operation. And to be fair, starting in 2020, that's like the depth of COVID, isn't it? So there's going to be a lot of interesting takes about that. Now, what started as an outdoor adventure film making has grown into a 6-person studio, and they're delivering a story-led campaign, well, multiple story-led campaigns for a selection of customers, one of which is the Scottish Government and other regional organizations, as well as international clients. So Jimmy is running a practical, no-nonsense production setup and focuses on authentic storytelling over just hype. And from the projects that he told me about in the pre-recording video, we're going to have some interesting takes here today. So Jimmy, how are you today? How are you doing?
Yeah, good, Roger. Thanks for taking the time to have a chat.
Well, it was right after Christmas, and well, we talked right before Christmas, and now it's right after Christmas. So everyone is just trying to catch up with all the work, aren't they? You told me you just came back. I mean, it's the 13th of January.
Yeah, we're pretty lucky. We actually had an extra week. We had a pretty busy year last year, and all had some annual leave to use up. So we decided to use it up all at the same time and have an extra week off. So we were just back in the office yesterday. So feeling pretty refreshed and ready to hit 2026 running.
Imagine being in a position, just walk outside your door and say, yeah, I'll turn the lights off and I'll be back in about a month. Yeah, I'll think about that.
It doesn't happen very often. I can say that. But yeah, it was nice to get away.
Just saying that, making sure that customers are listening. We are very, very professional people. So tell me a bit about the company. How did it all start? Because you worked for a while on your own as a freelance camera operator, didn't you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I started as a photographer actually straight out of college. I did a photography A-level and was climbing a lot at the time and was trying to find a way of tying the two together. And there is some work as a climbing photographer, but it's hard to get into. So I kind of took the leap, called myself a photographer, started doing some work. I was working as an assistant for a fairly well-established climbing photographer at the time and learned a lot from him. He's called Lucas Wojcicka. And then fairly quickly realized that photography is a hard world, especially kind of maybe that was like 10 years ago now, but yeah, it's hard. It's hard to kind of make yourself get a break or put yourself in a position where you're able to get a break. And I was finding it easier to do video and finding that there was more commercial video work. So started filming things, and that kind of morphed into being a video camera operator and did a lot of freelance work all over the world, mostly still running and climbing stuff, but all sorts of other things as well. Did some live stream camera work and a bit of broadcast stuff, and kind of just like opportunities lead one from another, and did that for probably 6 or 7 years, something like that, and kind of culminating in 2019 was busier than ever. I was living in Sheffield at the time, was busier than ever, had a lot of international work, some really cool documentary projects, but kind of was getting a little bit done with just flying around here, there and everywhere on my own. So decided that I wanted to actually move more into a production company and work. I realized that I'm kind of good at some things, but I'm not good at everything. And there's some things I really kind of was smashing my head against the wall to try and just get done. And it's a lot better to find people and collaborate with people that are better at those things and kind of like share the load.
I'm wondering now,
decided to
sounds like you either made the best decision or the worst decision for that time. Because when someone becomes a business owner, they almost have to be able to do everything, and not just in their own trade, but things like accounting, setting up the business, and being able to do the legal stuff. It all piles up. And if you need to do your own stuff as well, and now you're saying that some of the stuff you were doing, you wanted to give to other people or bring more people in the team, then suddenly your attempt to reduce the things that you're not good at and do it with someone else as well also led to increasing the workload that you had. So it's a bit of a paradox, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I think especially my job now is so different to what it was, even 2 years ago. Like now I'm much more in a kind of like running the company role, and I'm much less on the ground. And I still do shoot, and especially last year did quite a lot of shooting, but I'm kind of much more across all sorts of different things. But specifically the thing was actually editing, and I am naturally much more a camera operator. There's nothing I love more than looking down a camera, filming something cool. That's absolutely what I love, and the reason I get up in the morning. But editing, I have edited a lot and I enjoy editing, but I found that because I was trying to do all the other things, it was quite rare for me to have the time to just purely focus on editing. And Bob, who is now our full-time editor, he just lives and sleeps and breathes editing, and he's way better than I could ever be, partly because he's got that passion and he's got that knowledge, but also partly because his job, he is an editor. That's what he does. He comes in the morning and he sits in a project and he has the time to give it. And one of the things that I learn, and one of the things that I find, is probably the best thing about my job, is being able to facilitate people to do what they like, and then that mutually benefit everybody, and we can kind of grow off the back of that. And that's, all of the roles in the team. I think everybody has that spark, and it makes hiring hard. It makes hiring very hard because you need to find people that have that spark, but also match the ethos of us as a team. And we've learned a lot about that in the last couple of years. But what we have got is a really strong, really dynamic, very engaged team. And I hope, I'm kind of putting words in people's mouths, but I definitely love coming into work in the morning, and I'm pretty sure that the guys do as well. And it's a nice atmosphere. And to be honest, that's like, I'm so proud of that.
Are you getting some looks now from across the room?
Yeah, I don't know. I think everyone's got headphones on, so they're not listening in too closely, which is good.
Well, I do get you in terms of the editing, because we just started this podcast right before Christmas, only a couple of months ago, max. And the amount of, psychological warfare that I need to do to sit down and say, now I'm going to do the editing. I'm only doing like an intro and an outro on the video, and that takes a long time when it becomes repetitive. Like you feel like it takes a long time. It might take you an hour and you do a lot of work, but it's an hour's worth of repetition. And to me, that it doesn't sit well, which is why I've got 15 podcasts that I need to go back to and edit now. But I guess, like you said, if you have a team that each person within that team enjoys doing what they do, and you allow them to be happy within the space that they shine at, then suddenly that team becomes a bit cyclical. It feeds your work and you feed their work, and it just all works out. But when it comes to, it must be hard to find people to just out of the box match exactly what you guys are doing. So how do you go about that? Like, how have you tackled that?
Yeah, it's a hard one. And I think the answer is that we have a pretty big network. And we, for the first time last year, we hired outside of that network. And that was an interesting process to go through to work out how do you find those people? How do you kind of align on vision? And it's a lot more ethos based than it is skill. And I think we're pretty hot on that. We've got a strong system and we've got pretty defined roles within that. And so we're oftentimes more looking for people with the right attitude that want to learn and want to kind of give it their all. And if we have that as a starting point, we can train people up fairly quickly. And we're lucky with our projects that we're still fairly young as a company. So we have all sorts of different projects at different kind of like complication levels, but also at different budget points. So there's different amounts of pressure on them. And that's quite a nice position to be in. We also actually donate quite a lot of projects. We do quite a lot of kind of like social giving. And those projects in particular are great because they give us an opportunity to try things out, to train people up, to give people a bit more responsibility than they would maybe have on normal client projects. And we find that works very well. If you can find someone with the right attitude and then give them the tools to kind of like run with it, you very quickly learn if they're the right person. But you also, I think, it's quite empowering to be on the kind of receiving end of that. And so, yeah, I mean, to date, that's very much been my ethos, and it's worked out pretty well.
Okay, so it's a bit of a release someone in the sandbox, give them all the tools they need, get the brakes off, and just have them do what they do. And just by allowing them to have that freedom and, like you said, empowerment, you give them the tools and they have a team behind them. They can ask questions, they can go out and do it. Suddenly it sparks their creativity, doesn't it? They no longer are just going for a job, but they're going there for liking doing the production side of things, not necessarily the work of production, but working with that video production environment. And I guess that makes a lot of sense. I have found that for our company, we only went down the route of asking an agent to find us, a recruiter to find us a person to fill a job when we had a very specific job that we're looking for. But more often than not is us just chatting with people and saying what's problematic currently or something that would be better if we did it. And then people would just suggest someone and say, oh, you're looking for someone that does that specific thing. Well, actually, go have a chat with this guy. And it's not even trying to go and get them into the team. But when you're having a chat, you start clicking, you start having that backwards and forwards of the discussion. And then you're just like, just come in, let's have a go. Yeah. And then in the have a go, it becomes playful, it becomes empowering, it becomes powerful. And here we are making a team. But then how do you make that sustainable? Do you have a goal to grow the business to a certain number of people? And if so, how do you expect to do that with this approach rather than the more systematic agent recruiter based way?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, and it's one that I actually talk about quite a lot. And people sometimes say to me like, oh, you're an entrepreneur, and I hate that word. I wouldn't really call myself an entrepreneur because I do a job that I love, and it comes from a point of, you know, I've kind of been lucky to create a job and work with a team of people that just completely fulfills me. And we do this because we like making films, and we do this because we like filming things, and we are a business, so we have to make smart business decisions, but we're not at all on a kind of like fast growth, you know, like the end goal for me is not to grow and sell. The end goal for me is to have a career doing the job that I love and be able to enable the team around me to do the same thing. And so we do have goals, and we've actually had like an amazing, the last 3 years we've grown 40% year on year, and 2026 is looking promising, and it's looking like it's going to be a good year again. And we do of course we set goals at the beginning of the year for the year and for 3 years and for 5 years, and we have a pretty clear direction, but the direction that we want to go in is not necessarily entirely profit based. It's like, where do we want to be? What kind of work do we want to be doing? What financial level do we want to get to so that we can bring a new person into the team, or so that we can, you know, chase those bigger projects or whatever it is. I'm not sure if that's a bit of a tangent from the original question, but we find that it works. You know, like, we're profitable. We do the job that we want to do. We do the work for the most part that we want to do. We have a fairly small client base, and we have a very strong relationship with a lot of those clients. Yep. I mean, we have something like I would say like 85, maybe even 90% client retention rate. And I'm super proud of that, because we have really strong relationships with those clients, and we work very closely with their teams, and we understand what they want and they understand what we can do. And it makes it a very fulfilling relationship, and it makes it quite a mutually beneficial relationship. And that's nice, because we can be proud about the work that we're putting out, but we also know that it's achieving the objectives of the client.
Yeah, well, it's really good. It does seem like you've got the flexibility to be able to choose the kind of work you do. And because you're profitable, if you did decide, we need to get another person in because the work requires it, you can model your work and you can model the jobs that you need to do extra in order to be able to make that money, to be able to bring this person in. So it's a I would say fortunate place to be, but it's not necessarily fortunate as in lucky. You've made that happen, and you've made that happen whether you want to accept the responsibility and the praise or not. It's working. So in terms of your ethos, you mentioned it a couple of times. What is the goal? Like, what's your vision for the company? What's the mission? Why do you do what you do today? Why is the team motivated to work in the way that you work?
Yeah, and I think we actually we've got a new member of the team starting next week, and he left his previous job in production to come to us because he felt very strongly about the work we were doing. And I think that the answer to that question in terms of size is we probably don't actually want to get that much bigger. We're currently 6 people. I think in an ideal world, we would maybe move up to kind of 8, maybe 9 people. And that would be another editor and another producer, and maybe a socials person. But we don't really want to get that much bigger in terms of like capacity and size. And in terms of the work that we do, a lot of our work is quite, it's very much what I was saying before about client relationships. You know, a lot of our clients we have a good relationship with, and they're quite similar ethos to us in terms of wanting to be premium, wanting to be the kind of best that they can be in whatever their field is. A lot of them are not a decreasing amount, but traditionally we worked with a lot of outdoor brands, and I think the outdoor industry is an interesting one. It's a lot of very motivated people, motivated by, you know, wanting to go out running, wanting to go out climbing, wanting to be motivated by the outdoors.
So is it sporty? Is it a sporty kind of recording that you do? People that do, well, you could call them sport, adventure stuff, going out hiking, going out running, going out climbing, going into reservoirs, doing that kind of thing. Is that the idea?
Yes. Well, so the 3 years ago, that was pretty much all we did. We basically did running brand campaigns. Well, yeah, running and climbing brand campaigns and documentaries. And we pretty much exclusively worked within the outdoor industry. Over the last 3 years, we've broadened that out quite a lot for a whole range of different reasons. And now about 50% of our work is still outdoor industry, and the other 50% is everything else. And it's, you mentioned in the intro, we do quite a lot of stuff with the Scottish government. We do quite a lot of stuff with renewable energy companies. We do quite a lot of stuff with charities, NGOs. It's like a massive range. Pretty much all of it is outdoor linked in some way. But it's a lot more broad. So we still very much do the outdoor stuff. I spent the whole of October in the Himalayas filming a broadcast piece, a broadcast documentary piece at 6,500 meters. And, you know, that very much is where I came from. And that was drawing on skills that I'd kind of developed when I was a camera operator. But that edit is now in our kind of edit machine. And it's nice to have that resource to do that. But that's a bit of an anomaly, especially something that long. Like the rest of our work is like, you know, all sorts of different stuff. Okay.
So in terms of the sports brands that you deal with, what kind of, because their locations are always, you can say problematic or difficult, or they always have some kind of background that you need to be able to film in. If someone says, we'll come to your studio and do a recording, that's one thing. You've got all your equipment here, everything's already set up. But if someone says, go to the Himalayas at 6,000 feet with your oxygen bottle and then do some filming, then there's a lot more to consider. What kind of technology do you need to use to get your work done? Because surely you've got weird bits of kit that you need to employ to do your work.
Yeah, totally. And I think the answer to that is that it evolves and it's different for every single project. For Nepal, this project, we bought an FX3. We tend to shoot on FX6s for pretty much everything, but we bought an FX3 basically because we wanted the audio handle. This is a Sony camera. We wanted the audio handle, but we also wanted to be able to charge the batteries from power banks because we weren't sure if we were going to have mains power. And you can do that on the FX6, but you'd probably need to take a generator, which just wasn't going to be possible. So you make a lot of decisions based on, and then also actually I took 3 lenses. I took a 35mm prime, I took a 70-200 telephoto, and I took a 24-105 kit lens. And everything above 5,000 meters, I just shot on the 24-105 because I didn't want to be changing lenses, and I just didn't want to be exposing the camera body. So you make a lot of choices you make a lot of choices depending on the environment, but there's also some unknowns. For the first time ever on that shoot, the LCD display, the liquid in the LCD display froze. So it looked like I was filming at like 1 frame per second, and I was confused about what was going on, but I think it was actually that the screen had frozen, and because it was so cold, it was not kind of reacting properly. But you kind of like try and understand what's going on, and you just make the most of it. And I always take 2 cameras so that we have a backup, because you never quite know what's going to happen. And we actually did break a camera on that shoot.
Go on.
I mean, that's just part of it. It's actually just a screen. The screen, it's kind of a long story, but the camera was in someone else's bag, and it went into the bag screen down, and the screen just like got knocked out. But then it's pretty much unusable then, which is annoying. But that's why we take spares, because you expect stuff like that to happen.
Yeah, you need to be prepared, especially when you're going outdoors and you're nowhere near being able to just go and get one from the office. That's
yeah, exactly.
So when it comes to the more adventure stuff, do you use drone footage? Do you do anything a bit more dynamic? Is that something you do?
Yeah, we do a lot of drone. We do a lot of remote location drone. We work with an amazing drone operator. So I fly a drone. Actually, at the moment, I'm the only member of the team that flies a drone. But we've got someone else just learning. But we work with a freelancer who actually shares a desk in our office, and he's an amazing drone operator, and he does a lot of FPV stuff. So in Scotland, we'll often bring him in as a drone operator, because he's a lot better than I am. But
what's
on the
drone
stuff,
choice? What's the drone of choice for you?
Drone of choice for me is a Mavic 3 Pro, because that's what we have. Although again, it depends on the shoot. We have a Mavic 3 Pro, and we have a Mavic Air 3S or Air 3, which is just a smaller one. Depending how far you have to carry it, depending how many batteries you need.
What's your battery? Are they about 20-30 minutes?
More. I think that the Air 3S is like 35 to 40, and the Mavic 3 is like 40. Comfortably 40, which makes such a big difference. I mean, we've had the full evolution of Mavics through from the first one, and they were like 15 minutes. For me, the Mavic 3 is like the absolute perfect mix of quality and weight and stability in the sky, especially if it's windy. It's like pretty bomb proof. And then the image that you get out of it is like plenty enough for most of the stuff we're doing. And it grades well, and I love that drone.
I've just got my first entry drone, and I've been playing with it, and I'm getting into it. I wouldn't say I'm anywhere near an operator or an experienced flight pilot, but I took it out to a park, and I realized what the attraction to it is. I saw it work, and then after about 10 minutes, you're like, I'm enjoying this. I can, and especially when you go into the FPV mode, you're like, you've won me over. You've won me over.
Yeah. The best piece of drone advice.
It's the gimbal.
Oh, good.
I got a Holystone D something. I can't remember the exact model, which is the equivalent of the DJI Mini 4K, but it's a step down on the fact that it doesn't have a gimbal. It's got the 2 axis rather than the 3, and I'm thinking every time I try and move, my footage always wiggles.
Yeah,
so
I was actually just about to say that the best piece of drone advice I was ever given is, if you're filming, make sure the drone is moving in 2 axes minimum at all times, or the camera is moving in 2 axes minimum at all times. And as soon as you do that, if you're like moving forwards and diving on the gimbal, or moving to the side, and you're like tracking, it looks so much more cinematic. And as soon as I started doing that, it definitely like took me up a couple of notches.
Who gave you that advice? Was it this operator that you worked with?
No, it wasn't actually. I can't remember who it was, but it's a good one.
Nice. Okay, so talking about technology in the future then, what things do you see coming in? What kind of expectations do you have in the next 3 or 5 years that could change the industry? Is there any opportunities that you see coming, or any dangers potentially that are coming through?
Yeah, I mean, I think that is an interesting question, and I think it's a hard one to answer. And I think the NLEs, the editing programs, are moving so fast. I know that Premiere recently announced a thing where you're going to be able to AI analyze tracks and then pull the stems from it. So you can take the drums, you can take the speech, the like vocals, you can take the guitar, whatever, out of it individually. Stuff like that is just absolutely going to change the game. I think in terms of AI, we don't use any AI image creation in any of our stuff. We use a bit of AI in the office. I use a bit of AI in like contract writing occasionally, or like little bits and pieces, but it's pretty minimal. We use a bit of AI in particularly the audio editing space for like restructuring or shortening or lengthening songs. But pretty limited use really. And a lot of the stuff that we're doing is very people focused, it's very story based, it's very like authentic storytelling. So it kind of like just goes against everything that we stand for to be creating stuff. But
wouldn't you say though that in the editing journey, at least, if you were to have a bucket of information, loads of video that's out there, and you were able to just chuck it inside a program and then ask it to analyze the sequences and create a timeline for you, just as a starting point. It doesn't even ruin anything, just pulls things together and says, you've got 5 different options of this shot because you did it a few times to make sure you've got one. And then this is the timeline that you've given it in terms of narrative. And it creates a baseline for you to start working from. Wouldn't that say
which is happening? I mean, that's very much happening. And the other thing actually that we do use AI for is audio or like transcription of interviews particularly. And then the text-based editing stuff that came in last year, it speeds things up a lot. I'm kind of speaking specifically about like creation of video in terms of like creation of images or sounds. Yeah, generative, exactly. We're like very hardline, that's not where we want to go. But I think all of the stuff that's speeding things up, that's moving fast and it's exciting. We were actually approached last year by one of the AI companies who wanted to license our full back catalogue, 10 years of footage to train AI models. And that was an interesting kind of decision to make. And in the end, we decided not to use it, mostly because we have some fairly sensitive footage that just like, it becomes a kind of logistical headache around licenses and releasing and stuff. But yeah, it's moving fast. And it's exciting. It's exciting to watch it and see where it's going. Yeah.
I mean, the Coca-Cola Christmas advert kind of changed a lot for the production industry, because it's like one of the largest companies in the world just came out and normalized a full AI generated Coca-Cola advert, which has been like a staple of Christmas for the last however many years. And they just came out and said, you know what, screw it, we're going to do it all AI. And they did it. And I've spoken to people that thought it's actually very good to know that you can auto generate stuff, and you know that the technology is moving at that pace, because you know you've got the tools now as a creative to be more creative, spend less time on the technicalities and more time in actually being in the creation process. But then there were other people that said, watching that video make me ill because the sizings were wrong, the consistency between clips were wrong, the color schemes were a bit off, or whatever else. And they were basically coming out to say it's almost like they didn't do a proper job.
Yes. But I personally think that's the point. I think that was an absolute genius piece of marketing, but it was a piece of marketing deliberately. I think there was a meeting that was had where they decided, how are we going to get the most impact out of this? Well, let's make it from AI.
Controversial.
Let's make it a little bit not quite right, so that it gets people talking about it. And it worked. Like, everyone was talking about that, still is talking about that.
We're talking about it now.
Exactly. And so, yeah, clever piece of marketing. I don't think AI is going to replace the work we do. I think it's just like not going to be able to, because it's too kind of people based. But as a like tool in the wider arsenal of advertising or marketing creation stuff, like super powerful.
Yeah, definitely. I was having an interesting conversation with one of the guests. I think it was last week on Tuesday. The discussion was around which technologies stick and which technologies don't. Because sometimes you see something like, this is really exciting, this is exactly where we need to be, and it never takes off because for some reason it gets blocked somewhere. And then you get technologies that are so new, and at the face of it, you're looking at it thinking that's never going to catch on. And then suddenly it becomes the biggest tool that's out there. And specifically, he has something like 40 years of experience in video production. He started as a color, what's it called? Colorist.
Like a grader. Yeah,
grader. And he said the work of grading color for video production has always been the same, but the tools keep changing. And he started in the 80s, and he's still going today. So he was talking about all these technologies. Specifically, we went down to the discussing the I brought this up, the BlackBerry / iPhone full screen touchscreen approach. And there were executives back then that saw the new iPhone and they said, this is never going to catch on, because the professional wants to have a keyboard. They want to be able to see the keys that they're typing in. And in the face of it, that makes sense. When was the last time you saw a phone that has actual buttons on it?
Totally.
And then when it comes to the AI stuff, I was having similar discussions about whether or not it's going to catch on 4 years ago, and people were saying, well, it's interesting and it's a fad and it's a bit of a trend. People like to see that it responds to you and they get excited about the response, but it's not a good response. So how long before that gets old? And in the back of my head, I'm thinking, you're saying that it's never going to catch on, but I know for a fact there is billions, if not trillions of dollars being invested in it to make it better. So how can you expect something that's being invested into so heavily not to improve? And if people are excited now on the alpha version, imagine what happens on the beta release and the top of the line that's going to come in the next 5 to 10 years. And we're seeing it now. It's spreading out so fast. Well, there you go. It's technology that powers and technology that doesn't. It's weird.
I wasn't in the industry as we came through the digital transition. I was kind of aware of it. I was kind of like just aware of it, and I was seeing it. And the first camera that I ever owned was one of the first digital cameras. But it's interesting listening to different people's takes on that, because I know that some people were very hardcore, like, this is never going to take off. It's analog all the way. And then look where we are now. But I think my take on that is that they all just have very different jobs. Like, all the different tools have different jobs. And if you know what they're good for, I mean, it's kind of the same as like, how do you, we were talking before about what kit do you take on an expedition. It's the same thing. It's like, what tools have you got and what job are you trying to complete, and how do you draw the lines between what's most suited to doing that in the most efficient way?
Exactly. And I'm guessing if the professionals are using it and if people are getting a value out of that technology, even if it's new, then they'll keep using it. If they keep using it, it's going to take off, isn't it? As long as there's interest in it early on, you just know it's going to happen. So in terms of any final words, like from your journey, looking back, just all the things that have happened, the changes that you've made, going back to photography, changing to videography and freelancer, starting it as a business by building a team, doing it casually, but also seeing that you've got an interest and you've got the enough, let's say, money coming in to be able to make the decisions that shape the team and the environment you're working in. What would you say some bits of wisdom that might have come out of it are? Some final words that you want to leave listeners with right before we close up the podcast. I know I'm putting you on the spot, and I like doing it for every single person because it makes them think. But at the same time, there is some real gems that come out of this question if you just give them enough time to brew. So what do you think? What's the biggest thing for you?
I think my biggest thing is that, as we've spoken about, I come from a background of running and climbing, and from a work point of view, but I also do both of those things, a run and a climb. And I think that the skills you learn doing both of those things are very transferable. And I think climbing, very often you're absolutely terrified. You don't quite know what it's going to be like to keep going forwards. You don't quite know what it's going to be like to go backwards. But you have to move somewhere. You have to do something to get yourself out of that position. And I think that actually aligns quite closely to business. And then the same with running. Running, you get tired, but you have to keep going, and you have to pace yourself, and you have to make a plan, and you have to, particularly long distances, you have to keep eating and keep drinking and looking after yourself. And I think there's a lot of aligns with both of them. And I think the one thing I've probably learned is just have a thick skin. Don't take no for an answer, and just like know where you're going and just keep going there, and keep checking in on everything that's going on around you as you go, and make sure you're not, going in the wrong direction or doing harm to anyone else or whatever, but just keep going forwards. And if you're stubborn, and you can always find a way. You can always somehow find a way, and it comes together. And I guess that's the biggest thing I've learned. I mean, especially at the moment, like we've had a good couple of years, but it's definitely not been without challenge. And I think it's an incredibly hard time for small businesses just at the moment, for a whole range of different reasons. And not even just small businesses. I think it's a hard time for people generally at the moment. And I think, I've definitely learned over the last few years, just get your head down, keep going, keep moving forwards, and it'll come together.
So sometimes you need to put your head down and go through it, and other times it's going to be easier. But at the end of the day, it's consistency, isn't it? It's being able to keep going, keep following up on that plan that you've got. And actually what you said makes sense, because a lot of times people go down the route of saying, if you are stubborn enough, but then they say, don't listen to anyone, cut everything out, and just go single-focused, single-minded forward. But actually that way, that's how you crash. That's how you find a wall, totally. And you see it, and you don't get informed decisions, and you just go and crash straight into it. But as you're saying, do be resilient, but at the same time, inform your decisions left and right constantly. Be open-minded. Keep looking around. Keep finding the next way to overcome the thing that's going to come to stop you. But always keep moving forward. There you go.
Which is very much, that's the climbing analogy. Is when you're climbing and you're scared and you don't know if you can make it, the next bit is just move once. And every time you move, it's like, okay, now I'm in a different position. What's around me to help me take the next step, and take the next step. And it's the same thing. It's that, like, take a step, evaluate, where are we at? Where do we want to go? What's happening? Take another step. As long as you keep moving forwards, you're all good. You get there eventually.
You'll get there. Yeah, one foot in front of the other. In this case, one hand in one grip.
Yeah, totally.
The next grip. Amazing. Thank you very much, Jimmy, for your time today. I'm sure people will find this very interesting. I'll go and do some editing. I'll post it out there, and let's see where it goes. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Roger. Appreciate your time. Cheers. Bye.